Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. Hope everyone's having a fantastic day out there. I'm just going to dive right to it because just like the pre-chat was going, I just couldn't wait to kick off this conversation with my new friend Gerard. And he's a patriot. He's a family man. He's a godly man. And he's on the front lines, folks. And it's important, the singular call to action. I mean, there's lots of things to really take from this conversation. I know, well, from Gerard's story, he's got a lot to share, and he's lighting a fire under my butt. So I just could only hope that kind of ends up the same case for all the listeners. So without further ado, I want to welcome Gerard to Unmuzzled Chat. How are you doing today?
I'm blessed, brother. Thanks for having me on. I'm really humbled that you reached out and looking forward to just diving into the conversation today so the listeners can, hear everything we got to talk about and them too be inspired to see the culture war that we're faced and really just get involved in whatever aspect that they can and know that God's on their side.
Amen. I mean, just like we were talking about, like I just had a moment of excitement as we were getting set up of what a blessing this is with how evil has been fighting tooth and nail to demoralize, ramp up the pressure, censor, keep truth from coming out. It seems as though evil is scrambling at this point, fighting tooth and nail to control the propaganda, the narrative, and the floodgates are being opened and people are moving over in droves to these free speech platforms, podcasts such as this one, yours, and so many others. I know we're both kind of baby new in the space, but my gosh, like I'm just so excited to see more men like you stepping up to the plate, acknowledging and recognizing fifth generation warfare. Like we didn't ask for this, but we live in a wartime, but it isn't doom and gloom. And with God by our side, we can have all this excitement and see everything is a blessing and just really seize this moment in time.
Yeah, no doubt. Well said, brother. I mean, if you look through all throughout the Bible, and if you look at the world we're at today, it takes men. Men are the leaders. We're the leaders in the household. We're the leaders over the family. It's a covenant with God. But if men aren't standing up and having that relationship with God and being bold for it and proclaiming it, the devil's always going to win. But there's spiritual power when the man stands up with God on his side and moves forward, and the wife falls in line. The wife supports him, because those are the things, if you look at society, that they're trying to remove. So they're trying to get rid of the man and the woman. They're trying to destroy the family unit. They're trying to demasculinize the man. This feminist movement to say women don't need men is all to take away that godly power that he built us in to glorify him under. And that's what we're called to do in whatever aspect. But we got to put God first in the center, because we can see what society and where it goes when they remove God. It's a mess, and that's where we're faced at, because too many men have gone astray, gone away from God, and they're too weak to stand on truth. We have to stand up for truth. Society is saying, oh, this is acceptable and that's acceptable. Society might say it's acceptable. That doesn't mean that God says it is. And that's what we got to stand on.
100% agree with that. Well said. I mean, it's crazy how evil's destroying the family unit. And it's wild. We've been sounding the alarm on a lot of the tactics, these war tactics that have been taking place from the demoralization, from the manipulation side of things, but also from the poison side of things. Evil is diminishing our resilience and our ability to even acknowledge what's going on and or stand up and start fighting back. So it's imperative that we start looking inward, and at the point someone's taking offense to anything, or they're ruling out God, or they're just not open, like, because it's healthy to question things. Like, if anything, that's why we're here, to stay open, to seek a understanding, to learn, to experience pain and just all the things. But if you're gonna like sell yourself short, I mean, that on any of it, then you're limiting your experience in grave ways, and you're allowing essentially evil to put you in these smaller and smaller boxes very effectively, intentionally, and it's to our detriment, not our benefit. So we're trying to break through these barriers and find out how we up our resilience, um, and it's through spiritual, mental, physical, like what we eat and drink and all of that. But I digress. Let's dive into you here a bit, uh, Gerard, because why stand up now?
Yeah, yeah, good question. Good
Why
question.
why do
So
this company? Why? Yeah, what is your why? Let's hear it.
I had a God moment, to be honest with you. That's exactly what it comes down to. My life has been ups and downs, since I was young, grew up not in the best environment, made some bad decisions early on, didn't know God, wasn't faith in my household. God put me exactly where I needed to be at a point in my life to seek him out, had that time to study his word, know who he is. And I know what God has done for me as a man and as a family man. And even when it comes to health, I was diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia, and he cured me
Wow.
from that. Something doctors said I would never be cured from. I'm cancer free, have beautiful kids, blessed me beyond many means. And those are just the things that I know that God had done for me. He had given me everything I ever had seeked for him and asked for him for. Not to mention the peace and everything else that the Spirit gives you when you welcome him in. And the
Right.
brand came from 2 years ago, just being a father. We were set to go on a family vacation trip 2 years ago. My daughter, who was turning 5, wanted to go to Disney World for her 5th birthday. Now, we live in Florida. That's a normal thing to do. And right before we're set to go 2 years ago, Disney said they were suing the state of Florida over the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and they weren't going to call boys
Wow.
boys and girls girls. They were just really going like full woke. Disney had kind of always been like little behind the scenes and little things hidden, that maybe
Right.
we didn't see as much, because it was like hidden in our normal what we grew up with. But now they were making this full stance that this is what they were doing. Well, I knew as a father and as a believer that I could, if I canceled the trip, which I wanted to do in my gut as a patriot, I was like, you know what? I don't want to give Disney any money. I'm not going. Now we've planned this trip for months, so it's already set and set to go. I said, if I cancel the trip, all my 4-year-old daughter is going to remember is her dad didn't take her to Disney for her 5th
Right.
birthday, and he took his sister.
Yeah.
So I know the impact that can happen to young children, because I was impacted by worse things than that, but I know what we hold on to as a young child you know
Wow.
so I said, you know what? I'm going to go. This will be the last time we go. And I am going to make a t-shirt, because I know when people go to Disney, they make family vacation t-shirts, Disney trip, all that. And the vision came to me to make the shirt you're wearing. It's God made man and woman. I was just in my kitchen. The thought came to me. I jumped online. I went to Google, design a t-shirt real fast. Company came up, rushordertees.com. I designed it right there in their clip art on their site. And I always wanted to put an American flag on the sleeve. I just wanted to do that. So when I did, they automatically came back, because they have like a review process, and they said they refused to make the shirt. They said that it was inappropriate and they didn't want to ostracize any protected group. So I was like, you know what? That's your right as a business to refuse service. I don't agree with it, right? I don't think it's inappropriate, because I know if somebody was putting a LGBTQ rainbow parade shirt, you guys would be making it all day. So
Right.
anyway, I got the shirt made locally, wore it to the park. And when I went, my wife being a good wife, she's nervous. She's like, look, if they make you take the shirt off, take it off, don't start a fuss, don't start a fight. And I was like, all right, no problem, no problem. But what we noticed is the opposite happened. Hundreds of people stopped to get out of line, come over to me, shake my hand, say, I love your
Wow.
shirt. Thanks for being strong enough to wear it. Not to mention the
Wow.
smirks and smiles on people's face as I'm just walking through Disney World, about it. But at that time, it
Wow.
was still just a statement. It was just, I'd be like, yeah, I made my statement. It's good. That was it. But as we're leaving the park, I get a tap on my shoulder. It's 8:30 at night. We've been there all day. I look up, it's a guy in his upper 60s, early 70s wearing a Marine Corps hat. And he said, I love your shirt. Thanks for being strong enough to wear it and saying what needs to be said. I saw his hat. I recognized him as a veteran. I shook his hand. I thanked him for his service. And then he went and got into his wheelchair. So a military veteran got out of his wheelchair to shake my hand for wearing a shirt. And I still get the tingles as I'm saying it now. It hit me that we're in the biggest spiritual battle we're ever going to face. My life journey took me on a different route. I wasn't able to serve for our military. A lot of my friends do. I have great reserve for our veterans, have gave so much so we can live in a country so free and have the rights we have. And they're being stripped from us and destroyed from us. And it's spiritual. It is spiritual what we're facing. But I know in a spiritual battle, if we put God first, put on the full armor of God, he will prepare us and make a way in this time. So right then I was like, I got to start a brand that's bold for our faith, for Judeo-Christian values, that isn't going to back down. Because like you said earlier, a lot of people are afraid to say these things because they feel the backlash they're going to come. Maybe their brand's already established or they're already built, so they don't want to take the heat. Well, guess what? I'm new. I have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And I know when I got on my side, I'm going to win and prevail. And I know the power of the people. God gave us a spirit inside of us. So when we allow that spirit to grow, and some people might say, oh, it's just a shirt. It's so much more than that. Because when you wear that shirt, someone's going to come up to you. They're going to say, man, I love that shirt. Or, wow, that's right. Or you're going to empower them to say, you know what? I need to be more bold about my faith. Maybe I need to come to God. Or maybe you're just wearing a shirt and they say, can I tell you something? And then they want to confide in you in the struggle they're going through. I've had people walk up to me in the grocery store wearing my different shirts just they need somebody to talk to, So it's a way to evangelize in the process. So that's the story. And I said, I'm going to start a brand, stand up now, because now's the action word. If we don't do it now, there's no other time. And I came back and went to town, not knowing anything about having to do a t-shirt brand or anything, started designing t-shirts, figure out the process. It was some ups and downs. You make a lot of mistakes along the way, but God has blessed me and opened up doors where we've been invited to some Turning Point USA events and got connected with some really good ambassadors. Stephen Davis, MAGA Hulk, he wears our merch. He's a big supporter of the brand. Conservient Anthony, he wears the stuff. So God's just opened up doors, and through the power of the people and the brand, we can do that. We have to have the conversation. So every shirt I make is designed to be thought evoking and conversation starter, because that's what they don't want us to do. They don't want me in Florida to connect with you in Arizona on the radio waves we have, to anybody that's possibly listening, to share these thoughts and ideas, because when we do, we ignite that fire, we let our light shine, and people say, you know what? I'm inspired to do it too. I'm going to get involved.
Wow. I love it. I mean, how intentional. I mean, even stating the stand up now and now being the action word, we just need that type of leadership. Gerard, you're leading by example, and way to pick up on, I mean, everything. Like, my gosh, to take the action necessary that led you to that point in Disney. And that, what a profound moment. I was fighting back the goosebumps even here, but I just love how you have no fear on bringing God back into the discussion. And it literally, one of your shirts right there, bring back God, freedom over fear. I mean, this very shirt I'm wearing, folks, God made. I mean, just that expression, those two words is just powerful. Obviously, it goes without saying, the imagery below that, totally on board and freaking love it. And so many people do. Like, we got to challenge ourselves. Let the haters hate, but we could have love in our heart for those individuals. I'm more so, it's interesting, as my little baby faith has been growing, how I am content in handing things over to God. He's going to be he's the perfect judge. Like, I have no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So it's loving all the individuals, hating the sin, and fighting to eradicate sin, because that's that's what's causing all this toxicity and suffering amongst like our brothers and sisters, you
Yep.
know?
Yep. It's a divide. It's a divide. And I made that shirt, and some people would say, "Oh, it's an automatic attack on the LGBT community." No, it's not. It's simply
Yeah,
saying what's true. God
what's
made us the
true.
way we are, perfect the way that we are, and you don't
Hmm.
need to try to, through any surgeries or operations, change who you are. And now
Mm,
you have, look at these schools where you have kids that are pretending to be cats, and our
right.
other children are forced to have these litter boxes in the classroom. That's not the way we're designed. God
No.
didn't intend that. That is a confusion. It's an evil spirit that is placed upon people. And by us saying this simple message that we believe in the truth at the beginning of how it all started is God made man and woman to come together with him in the top, in the center, and just allow that spiritual energy to grow and magnify. And you mentioned, your faith is being growing in the process. Mine has too,
Yes.
brother. Mine
Yeah.
has too. When I started this 2 years ago, I was nowhere as confident in my faith and sharing the things that God has done for me. I was actually
Right.
ashamed of a lot of the things that I had done in my life because I made many mistakes. At
Yeah.
16 years old, I moved out, got involved in the drug life. At 19, I was faced with 35 years and ended up going to prison for 5 years. I've been
Wow.
ashamed of that my whole life, because I didn't want people to look at me and judge me. So I made sure that when I went into prison, I allowed it to make me better and not bitter. And
Mm,
everything I did, that was the time that I dove in the word and read it for the first time and accepted
wow.
Jesus and found my faith. And it was still baby faith. It was still
Yeah.
so baby. And then as I'm getting out, I get diagnosed with that stage 4 leukemia, still baby faith, questioning
Yeah.
God in the hospital bed. God, why would this happen to me? I was just in prison for 5 years. Now I'm diagnosed with terminal illness. It's because God still had to build my faith. I never
Right.
let that seed of cancer take root, overpower me. Because I know in his word, it says faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. So I didn't let that seed of evil, and I believed in the faith that God was going to cure me through this. And he did, and when we
Wow.
don't allow the evilness and society of the world to slip into our mind, the depression, the anxiety, all the things the world tells us
Yes.
we should have, and to numb it with the drug, which all it does is distances us from our spiritual maker and how he, the spirit, can heal us and it takes time, and
Yes.
just in these 2 years since I started my brand, I would have never shared that testimony about myself. Never,
Right.
ever. And through the spiritual journey that God's placed me on and seeking him daily, he's empowered me to do that, and that's his,
Wow.
people say, oh, it's a t-shirt, but it's a relationship. It's a
Yes.
relationship that you fully accept, that you cloak yourself in, and you're open to. And that's what it takes. And that's what we need as America. That's what we
Yeah.
need as men, in the families, in the homes. We need to do this, welcome him in. And is it easy? Do we fall short? Absolutely. All the time. The
Yeah.
flesh is, someone showed me a long time ago. It's like we're sinful by nature, right? We're selfish. The word selfish is literally flesh is. Flesh is selfish. It's the same letters if you cross them out
Wow.
and go over. So we're
Wow.
designed that way. And I believe there's power in the words. I believe there's power in the words we say. I believe in the power of the words that we write, what we do. So we have to be careful in how we go about it, but we have to be bold. We have to be strong. That doesn't mean back down in the face of danger. All throughout the Old Testament, and a lot of believers, they don't dive into the Old Testament as much as they should. I feel they jumped right to the New Testament, and that is important, very important, because that's where we learn about our Savior Jesus Christ and accepting Him and the forgiveness.
Right.
But when we read those Old Testament stories, we see the strength and the sinful nature of men and how we, even through the sin, you go back to God. You ask for forgiveness, you seek
Right.
him out, and how he can use you to overcome anything. And that's what we got to do.
Isn't it interesting? Like that's all we really have. Am I here to twist anyone's arm into believing? No. Like everyone's walk is unique. And I like shout out to Jeremy, a fellow brother believer, and how he just said everyone's walk is uniquely tailor made. And it's your choice. It's your choice to open that door or not. All we are expressing openly as men, how when we opened that door and we left it shut to our own detriment for many years or
Oh yeah.
moments, right? To our own detriment. But once we did, and it's interesting because I reflect back more so on baby faith where I would speak out on God and certain things, but it was more so just saying the words, right? It was more so just, I mean, just that, just saying the words. There wasn't much behind it. But
Depth.
as you're sitting there sharing your story and your testimony, I feel it. And that's where like I could relate with you there, where you were like, it's almost one of those things you talked to me even a year ago that I'd be even doing what I'm doing here, yet alone talking about faith, be like, you're crazy. No way.
Yeah.
But as that grows, and I guess that's where the shift really happens when you start to believe and like it's I mean, there's reasons behind that belief on personal walk and you start walking in faith. Like once that shift happens where you, for me personally, start valuing spiritual life and death over the mortal life and death, then it becomes really easy in a sense to speak out in it mortally because it like let the haters hate. You
Yep.
know, it just shifts everything. So that is powerful. Thanks for sharing, Gerard. I mean, I feel we could do other exclusive episodes relation just diving into life on the other side of the tracks. Like
Oh, for
how
sure. For
my
sure.
gosh, like how dark it got, how challenging, like how selfishly we lived and full of sin. Like, but to those out there is like that would be powerful stuff to dive into because clearly that's very relatable for a lot of folks. And I for those really walking in faith would give grace and understand as well. I mean, if not, then it's, hey, just the lesson Jesus taught about, ye without sin cast the first stone, right? Like, come
Yeah,
on, cut us some slack here.
I use that all the time because you see that today, especially
Right.
in the conservative world, right? I mean, people are so quick to call somebody else out for what they're doing, calling them
Mhm.
not a Christian or questioning their faith or their walk. But you said it perfectly. Everybody's walk is different. So by you hitting that person with a bat when they slip or do one thing that doesn't align with the way that that person views what should be done, are you lifting that person up or are you holding them back and causing a divide? Because if we all truly look in ourselves and at ourselves, nobody would pick up a stone like nobody did in that story. You know, we
Right.
want to call abortion or adultery, all these things the worst. And trust me, as somebody that's pro-life and that doesn't cheat or anything like that. But I also know too, we all fall short, and there's things that come along our way, whether there's circumstances in our life or the current environment that we're in that makes us feel, or society that makes us feel like this is what we have to do. Because it's a spiritual battle. It really is, and everything around us is telling us to go it this way, go it the way of the world. They want to normalize it in every way. I mean, you look at the music today and what's on TV. I mean, it's everywhere. And that's why, if you know what your faith is, and even if it's little, even if it's growing, you got to step into it. You got to put yourself in the right circle. You got to get involved. And also, we see what's going on politically in our country. You see the persecutions that are going on. They want
Mhm.
to remove God, attack our faith. It's for a purpose. Because if they
Yes.
know that there's men and women that believe in the stories of the Bible, they believe in the Holy Spirit, they know the power that God has given each one of us. And all it is us stepping out and believing and acting. There's nothing they can do to stop us. That's why they
Right.
want to remove it. Because when we
Oof.
stand together and come
Yes.
forward with that faith, they can't, it's spiritual. They can't stop it. They will try. They will try to lock us up. They will try to silence our speech. They'll take away
Yes.
our accounts. But when you continue to step forward with that bold faith that we're called to do, everything and nothing's impossible.
Wow. So let's really hone in on that for the listeners. Listeners, Gerard just touched on something so powerful. the little steps, the calls to action that we could all do to help right this ship. And it's, oh my gosh, to up our resilience to, because there's no better counselor. Like that's what Jesus is referenced as, the counselor, right?
Yep.
And so many other beautiful things. But when we seek that, like we will be guided, right? Like don't take our words, but we can see as we build out an alternate kind of economy and we support and stand up for one another, where we can ease the burdens to the deterioration in our nation and in our world. But even more important than that, we are pulling funding away from, like, so with t-shirts, I mean, it seems simple, but instead of supporting companies, it's more than 100% gain on momentum in the right arenas that are going to shift this tide, because you're 100% taking the funds from Nike or uh, other brands that are using that money against us to push this woke toxic ideology and political funding, all sorts of things. And you're putting that towards a man, a family that is on the front lines fighting for our freedoms.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's more than just to myself. To add to your point, when I started this brand, I said, you know, if I'm starting a brand, putting God's name front and center, I have to tithe. I have to tithe 10%. So
Mm.
before I sold my first shirt, I got connected with a local organization, Wounded Veterans Relief Fund. They put smiles on the faces of veterans that have been
Oh,
injured,
there
that
we
the
go.
VA doesn't cover them. And then through that, when I wrote my original mission statement, I said it was to give back to nonprofits, but also to help individuals that need support in this times. Not knowing what that meant at that time is a very early on, you know, before I sold my first shirt, I wrote that. But what God has done is he led me into paths of people that are battling right now, you know, J6 people that are getting persecuted, that are being
Wow.
charged, where we've been able to, through our brand, pour money into them. Maybe they're having events that they're doing fundraisers for. We
Yeah.
give coupons where they can do silent auctions for merch and different things like that. So Siaka Massaquoi, he's the Babylon Bee actor. He
Mm.
just got arrested. We support him in his battle, what he's going through. I was on the phone with him yesterday, and
Wow.
he's got a thing going off in California in the next 2 weeks. So we're supporting that. So it's not just going to me. You know, I've given more to charity than I have for myself. God has blessed me as a man to be able to take on this, because this is a big undertaking, to step in to say, I'm going to start a brand, you know, because you're
Yeah.
going against the big names, you know, the Google, the Meta, that promote certain things, and
Right.
they pick and choose who they're going to promote. And they're not
Yes.
promoting a brand like ours. So that's what it
Nope.
takes, the power of the people going for these uncharted waters, you know, going on public square, you know, using our own platforms of free speech, connecting together, Turning Point USA, you know, Clay Clark Reawaken events. I've been to all those. It takes all those conglomeration of we, the people, coming together to support and stand what we want to support, to make America what we want it to be, where
Come
we want
on.
to grow old, the type of America our kids are supposed to grow up in. And if we don't do it now, it's not going to be here. We look how quickly the world has
Yes.
changed in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Yes.
And you look around and it's speeding up more and more. And look at like the stuff that's going on right now on these college campuses, right?
Yeah.
With this death to America and Hamas, and they're closing down a university because a few hundred people are doing this. Is this not any
Wow.
different than the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots
Right.
of 3 years ago, 4 years ago? It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. It's a different label. It's just expedited. And they're
Right.
using it. If you look, it's around the exact same time in 2020 that those stuff started happening. Now you have this popping off.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidence when it
No,
comes to that type of stuff. And it's the
not at
same
all.
money backing it, you know,
Yep.
not to mention we have our border that is wide open. I mean, they
Yeah.
are doing everything they can to destroy Americans, real Americans that love our country, no matter where they're from. You know, my mother originally came here legally from South America. You know, she's originally from Germany. They came through a migration, but my parents came here legally when she was 16 years old. That's the right way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
Not coming in our country illegally, getting free things, looking for a handout, looking to milk off the system, where here we are as taxpayers. You know, we just paid our taxes on the 15th and they sent $96 million overseas and they're waving another country's flag in our halls. So you see this stuff and you're like upset. You know, you get bothered as an American, like, what is going on? This is just another reason that, you know, you got to get involved, but we got to do it in the right manner, energy, and speech. And that's the key, because you already know what they're looking to do to us. We saw that on January 6th. Yes. We've seen it in other obstacles. We have to be smarter than what they're trying to do to us. So that's where the God element, the God spirit comes in, that we have to move forward with if we want to win. That's what it's going to take. I truly believe that in my soul.
Me as well, and very well said, Gerard. Folks, I'm not going to spoil it for you, so be sure to check in the comment sections of this episode. Click on the Stand Up Now link and check out all the amazing shirts, hats, and just merch you guys are providing. It is crucial, because it is more than a t-shirt, that we all stand up now and take these action steps. Now, that being said, kind of shifting, why the podcast, Gerard?
So it's, as I said, I designed my shirts as a conversation starter, you know, and I was using Instagram as somebody that had never used social media really at all. I had got off of it in 2015, 2016. I got off social media because you lose friends because of who you support. And it was just too much nonsense, you know? So I was like, let me just cut it off my life. That's not needed in my life. But when I started the brand, I know the power of social media has. So I started an Instagram page and it grew. And I was just wear the shirt and talk about issues that were going on. Well, I was wearing the shirt you're wearing, and I was in Target, and this was right around a year ago.
What are you doing in Target?
This was before the boycott started. My wife, we had dropped my daughters off at a birthday party. And of course, like wives do, they got the husband in the car, say, hey, we're stopping by Target. And like, I don't want to go to Target. You know, guess what? You're going to Target or you're sitting in the car. So anyway, going around, walking the store with my wife, I'm pushing the shopping cart, and the boys' clothes section is right on the edge of the aisle, the main aisle. I look over, and every one of the boys' clothes has a rainbow on it. And it's not the biblical rainbow. No. It's not the biblical rainbow. Every single shirt, it was like 4 or 5 shirts. Anyway, I told my wife, I said, take a video of this. I made a quick video, maybe 40 seconds. It went viral. When I say viral, mega viral. MSNBC News played it on 8:30 at night, the night that DeSantis declared to be president. They literally said, we want to stop and show you, it's not a campaign ad. We want to show you this, the ad. And it was me in Target. I was talking about how this woke culture is coming after the young men of society, and we need to stand up as fathers and leaders and take control of this and cut the head off. And it was 2 weeks after that, people went into Target. Well, then they went into Target and they saw the tuck bathing suits and all the pride selections. So that's kind of what started that precursor. And then that's where the backlash really started. So to answer your question about the podcast, those news stations that put me on, the only one that would allow me on the studio to share what I wanted to say was Real America's Voice. They're the only ones that had me on. Fox News wouldn't do it. MSNBC wouldn't do it. None of them. They wouldn't have me on. I reached out. I said, this is what they said. Because those ladies on MSNBC, they put a bunch of trash and garbage about what I meant. And they said that Target and Disney knows better what the people want than the people themselves. And I was the poison. And anybody that believed like me is the poison of America. All the garbage that MSNBC spews. Right. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start a podcast so I can have a conversation, so we can talk about these issues. And God connected me with somebody in California who we do a show with. We do it live twice a week on YouTube and Rumble. It's you can find it. It's the Are You Listening Stand Up Now podcast. It's all of our socials are at Stand Up Now 2022. So that was the reason for the podcast, to have people on, talk about the issues, but then we also do testimonies where we have guests come on and share the power of their testimony and what God is doing through them and with them in the world today. Because
I love
when
it.
I read the Bible, that's what I read as testimonies. And I know the Holy Spirit's still alive today, but
Yes.
we are not sharing the testimonies. And when people hear those things, they're inspired to seek God out. And that's the key. That's really the key, because we know how the story ends, right?
Yes.
If we know how the story ends as believers, we're called to shed the light, to share the Holy Spirit so that person can invite the Holy Spirit in. We can't shove it down their throat. It's meant to be an invitation so they can ask along that walk. We can be that guiding light and that motivator wherever they are in their walk to stand up and ask God, come into my heart, work on me, so we can win souls for the kingdom, because that's what this is about.
Wow. Yes, I'm looking over your titles and everything. I'm excited to dive more in. I've listened to a couple and you do a great job. You're gonna put me out of a job. No,
No, no,
it's
man. No, you're good.
no.
You're good. No.
That's the thing. We all, and that's where we all, as even the listeners, can grasp from the very story you just told with the situation of you being in Target, seizing that moment, shooting a clip, making in that goes viral, and how that influenced, like that was a huge part. Clearly, you
Yeah.
could see is to real big awareness and positive shifts. And it actually shows us as a collective, like as a people, how much power we actually have. Evil doesn't want us to recognize, be able to acknowledge or see that, because if we do start kind of just tearing down these constructed barriers and polarizations and weaponized words and start unifying and putting our time and clicks and likes and money into businesses and things that share more so the morals, values, or even actually have our interests at heart, then like those are the calls to action. Like we all need to, I guess it's just healthy to take a second. It's helpful to take a second and see how big of an impact each of us can have. And I guess, I'm not here to hoard any of my listeners. Like, please go check out his podcast and the content, because the the individuals you've had on and the testimonials could, yeah, very well bless their lives or someone in their lives they know. And it's important in this digital space that we collect as many seeds as we can and we plant as many
Yeah.
seeds as we can. And because just like we're expressing how our faith has been growing, you just got to keep watering. As I see it, we're all just uniquely, let's just say, gifted. And I can just see how you would resonate with people in ways I cannot. The guests you have had on, so the very same thing. So I'm just so excited to connect with people on the front lines, such as yourself and warriors, and just kind of help create this shift in momentum. Very grateful for this opportunity, Gerard.
No, and I appreciate you having on. It speaks to your character because, like you said, we're all in this together. Rising tide raises all ships, right? And that's what we have to do. You see so much today. People are fighting over their followers or their likes, and they get attached to those things. Well, those are things of this world. We're not
Yeah.
supposed to do that. The only person we're supposed to be following is God, Jesus, our faith, wherever that aligns for that person. That's the person we're supposed to be following. And if we're not allowing these people to follow us so we can lead them there, what are we doing it? We're doing it for selfish, for monetary, for greed. And we know where those things end up. So it speaks to your character for one, reaching out, inviting me on to share my story with your listeners. You're crushing it on Rumble. You're doing a great job. I looked at some of your stuff, and even it just goes to show people like, you don't have to have much. We're blessed that we're living in this time where we can figure this out. It's a lot of work. Absolutely. It's a lot of work. You're going to fumble through a lot of things, but when you're doing it for the right reason and you stay at it, things are just going to go, and it's
Right.
just, you mentioned the people that I was blessed to have on the show in a short amount of time, because we just launched a show not long ago. It's because of the apparel brand being at these events. I got to network and connect with people
That's
that,
great.
and it's something that at the very beginning, I did, and I think a lot of us do, is we want things to go our way. We all want that. We want it to go our way in our time, and things aren't working out, and we're not wondering why. Sometimes we take the ropes and we just run with it. But you're going to run into a wall. You're going to fail. You're going to lose money. Something's going to happen. You're going to backslide. It's not for the right reason. But when I've learned to step back and accept the pause that sometimes comes when you have a business, when you're newly out, God's going to open up a door. You're going to get a phone call from somebody, or he's going to connect you with something. And it's like, boom, it's that next level. But when we want to take the wheel, we usually crash it off into a ditch,
Right. Right.
So I just say to anybody that's listening that maybe they're struggling in their faith. Maybe they've been praying for something that God hasn't provided to them, and they're like, God, why is it not yet? It's because it's not the right time,
Right.
and maybe we're praying for something that's not aligned in our path. We're praying for it because that's what we want. And sometimes the best prayer that I say often is, God, thank you for the doors that you're going to open, and for closing the doors that I needed shut. Because I might not even know that I needed that door shut. It could have been something that I was seeking after, and
Mm.
I let it go, and a bigger door opens that I don't even know in front of me. So I would just say that to anybody that's listening that might be in that situation, to, fully give it to God and just surrender that, and trust, and know that it takes time. But don't think that you don't have to act, because you have to act.
Right. I mean, it's wild. I know personally, like it's been a long struggle with this Lyme disease, and it's been entirely at times debilitating, like just wiping out all function. But with that struggle, putting the time and energy into the Bible and these in the right ways, and also with my defects, and I'm sure getting off track at times as well, like it has led inevitably to breakthroughs in right time. And I just know at the end of it, left to myself, I wouldn't foster any gratitude. It would be nothing but spite and angst and why me's, reflecting back on that hell hellish path. But with God, like I'm actually, what a blessing to walk through that hardship. There's no way without, like, it's solely through God that I'm able to foster that type of gratitude and excitement. And I know there's such a large silver lining, because it's like, wow, it just really helped pull blinders off as to how engaged we've really been, how blindly and trusting we've been in like Western medicine and white lab coats. Now, not to speak entirely bad, there's definitely individuals in there that have drank the Kool-Aid, that their heart's in the right place. They're slowly onboarding more knowledge and practicing medicine, but so many of them, it's a big business, and it's all about the money over our health and well-being, and that is attributed so much to the deterioration, where we've essentially given up our sovereignty and freedoms, and constitutions getting trampled on, and this infiltration and
Yep.
open borders, and what happening in the schools, and these controlled medias and social medias and speech, and pandemics running wild. Like, it's it's up to us. So anyone that feels challenged, it's like we got up the resilience. So with that being said, you look good, man. You look healthy, you look fit. Do you got any tips and tricks for folks, like, and things that have blessed you on upping your resilience and function, things of that nature, supplements, workout? I mean, let's hear it.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. You're in pretty good shape yourself, I can tell. I'm actually healing from a pec injury. I actually hurt myself just a couple weeks
Oh
ago.
no.
Yeah, I'm working through that. That I was actually not working out. I was donating. We were out with the Jack Brewer Foundation, and we were passing out some food out in a kind of impoverished area. and I was moving a pallet jack around and I injured myself. But, as far as the main things, like I said before, I was diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia at 24 years old. That
Wow.
took the gas out of me. It was tough, spiritually. I knew, because I had an experience in the hospital bed where God spoke to me and told me everything was going to be perfectly fine. And I knew that was the spirit that spoke to me. I woke up with a peace about myself that I
Wow.
just knew it to be true. So I never let the thought that I had cancer hold me back. I never did. But yeah, I had to fight. Because did I have tough times? Absolutely. Was I on some really strong medicine at times? Absolutely. My cells kept mutating. I was going to have to do a bone marrow transplant. The doctors were telling me this was the only option. I ended up not
Wow.
doing that and just really focused on the healthiest things I could do for myself. I got a juicer because in more mornings I couldn't even eat. There were days I
Wow.
couldn't eat for hours. So after lunchtime, from the medicines was just so harsh. So I was doing carrot juice, beet juice, fresh ginger, doing that, really trying to just stay healthy, getting myself where I would go out and just walk and exercise. So I got to where exercise was a part of my routine. In this process to cancer, wasn't just a cancer medicine, but then you have the pains. And then what do they give you? They give you pain medicine, and narcotics. So they're feeding you that,
Mm.
so that I went through that journey where I had to cut that off, and the battles that comes with that. And they're not easy, but when you lean into God and you surrender to him, he takes it away. He truly,
Wow.
truly does. So at that point, I was having like insomnia. I couldn't even sleep. I was getting 3-4 hours a night of sleep, waking up at 3 a.m. So I was like, I'm going to the gym. The gym opens at 5. I'd be sitting there. And at first I couldn't even really lift weights. I'd go in there, get in the sauna, but it turned into a routine. I would tell to anybody, 21 days starts a new habit. You might not want to do it the first day, the third day, the 7th day, the 10th day. You want to sleep in, stick to it. Do it for 21 days straight. Don't take a Sunday off. And this goes to your diet or whatever it is. 21 days. Stay true to it. It's a new habit, and then you're longing for it. So that's what I do. I wake up in the morning, go to the gym. That's my me time. I read my scripture as soon as I start the day, listen to some Christian music or different music while I'm working out. Bryson Gray is awesome. Tyson James, Rare of Breed. They're really good Christian kind of rappers today or artists that can get you going and put some good faith in, and they all have powerful testimonies. So I listen to that, get my exercise on, and then I'll go in the steam room or the sauna for 15, 20 minutes and do that. And then I'm ready to start the day. And I would say just it's mind, body, and soul. It really is mind, body, and soul. People say, oh, that's Eastern philosophy. No, it's not. It's the Trinity. The
Yeah.
Holy Trinity is mind, body, and soul. Father, Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit. Trinity. We are designed this way. Women, men, children, the Holy Spirit. Trinity. That's how we're designed. So if we just focus on that and really hark into it, but take your vitamins. My wife's really big on it. She's way better than I am. She does like black seed oil and sea moss pills. She's always
Wow.
on me. Did you take your stuff? But I'm sometimes not as diligent as that I should be, but I'm getting back into it, especially when I hurt myself. That's always when you're like, oh, I need to recover. Let me start taking all my vitamins, taking my fish oils. And then you start feeling good and you're like, oh, I didn't take those today. It's no big deal. But I do believe that black seed oil is very, very healthy. They found that stuff in like the King Tut's tomb, right? Like a
Did they?
cylinder. Yeah, of
Okay.
black seed oil. So if think about, they buried this guy with gold and everything else, all their finest riches, but also with black seed oil, so it's high, healing properties and things like that. When it comes to being sick, I always try to go the natural route. Always,
Yeah.
if you have a cold, oregano oil, fresh pressed stuff, that'll knock out anything. That's your natural antibiotics. So I just always try to go that route, because like you said, the system today, the pharmaceutical world, I mean, pharmacy is, it's the devil in a word, it really is. It's spirits, it's magic, pharma. So, and they've worked their way into medicine. Cause if you think about like medicine and like the symbol, right? It's the staff with the stake. That's from
Yes.
Moses. That's from Moses. That's in the
Right.
Bible. Christians started the first hospitals, so they needed a place to heal people and gather. But then the devil takes his
Yeah.
seed, take roots, and now it's pharma, and only medicine can heal you. And they don't give you the herbs and the remedies, and the natural things that God provides. They tell you that we need this, but none of that stuff usually cures. It
Right.
harms you. The side effects
Right.
are way worse. When my cancer journey, I was on medicine because they told me the type of cancer I had, it was CML is what it was. And you have to take this type of medicine or your white blood cell count shoots up and your spleen's going to rupture. This is what you have to do. Went through 4 different medications, finally found this one that worked, and it worked for the cancer. It kept my cancer down. I was able to function. Every month, was I in the bed for 3 or 4 days? Absolutely, I was. But other than those 3, 4 days, I was a go-getter. I was in sales. I was hustling. I was making money.
Wow.
I was providing for my family. Was blessed to have 2 healthy daughters, something that doctors told me I couldn't do on the medicine.
Mm.
We and my wife said, we're not going to allow that word to take root in us. We're going to have children, and they're blessed and healthy and beautiful.
Wow.
But the cancer drug eventually was eating away at my inside. That's how I
Yeah.
stopped the medicine and found out I was cancer free, because it was eating away at my thoracic duct inside. So medicines can be helpful, but they can be harmful. So be very cautious on where you're going with that. Your Lyme
Right.
disease journey that you're on, I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of things yourself over that.
100%. I mean, it's been quite the journey. But you brought up something I really want people to like look into and be cognizant of, and not just blinded, just be aware. Like that staff with the snake, like there's evil loves under the guise of doing good the most nefarious and evil things. Like Satan's here to deceive, steal, destroy. What else? There's a
Kill,
whole bunch. Kill,
kill.
kill.
I think you got him,
Gosh dang. And just to connect those dots, like once again, I think that's where it's just boils down to it's healthy to question things. The truth truly does set us free. And that's why they're fighting tooth and nail. I mean, it's wild, even with X being liberated, and I'm using it quite often because it's a great source for these little clips. I've just found it very user friendly in that regard. I never thought I'd end up on a former Twitter app or
Yeah.
platform, but what a blessing. But even then, so much of the reposts and things, I'm the majority of it, it's like fact check kind of this or that. And it's actually wild. I just reposted. Let's actually try to pull that up.
Yeah,
But
Elon has done his amazing thing with buying X, and you see what's going on. I mean, not just in America, the freedom of speech, but look what's going on in Brazil right now. And I even saw in Australia. I saw a thing today. You know how that bishop got stabbed?
yes,
So,
he's
so
amazing.
Australia is wanting Elon Musk to remove the video from the platform in Australia,
Really,
and he won't do it
really.
because think about what it does. It shows a Muslim attacking a Christian.
Mm,
and they're trying to remove it. So
wow.
it's not just America that's trying to hide this freedom of speech. It's everywhere. It's not just us. The media wants to say, oh, it's just
Right,
America acting crazy. It's these far right wing extremists. No, it's not. This is a
right,
global. This is the devil working what he can do all over
right.
the world. It's everywhere.
Do not allow the devil to deceive you, mislead you, misguide you, manipulate you, and affect like your being, your
Yeah.
energy, your think. I mean, infiltrate you because like he has a very effective way, almost a desirable way to taint, like to get us to feel that toxicity and a certain way towards our fellow brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
under the guise of like, it's just, it's poisonous.
Yeah,
But this,
it's emotion. It's emotion, and
yes,
that's what society is doing. Is they're telling people that emotion is important, and they're using
right,
that fear of that kickback,
right.
to come after you to hold people back from stepping fully in. So Yeah, it's a full on attack.
Let this one sink in. I love this image. Fact checkers did not exist until the truth started getting out.
Mm,
So all these alerts I'm getting, even though I'm reposting things and it's trying to correct the narrative of what a contrail is, or just trying to keep the propaganda, alive and well, and people questioning narratives and having that manipulative effect. Like, just sit on that. It just says a lot to really hone in on that this is spiritual warfare. And you can see when you look into the symbolism and how evil is alive and well, that it's just so crucial that we build out that relationship with our creator, to put on the proper armor of God, to not be afflicted, in these later days.
yeah.
Like, man,
Yeah.
it is buckle up. We are in
Mm-hmm.
for a ride.
Yep.
Even if everyone just started standing up now, uh, I'm sure there's some plan B, C, D, E, F, G that
Oh yeah.
evil's gonna roll
Yep.
out, and it's definitely gonna be a ride. So clearly, big things like unprecedented is like overused by the war machine. However, we truly are in times where so much has never been done before. I mean, what's happening on the political stage. I mean, the early meme regarding Trump reigns so true. Love or hate that man. They're not after him. They're after us. He was just getting in the way.
Mm-hmm.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true. Very true. And I want to add to this. A lot of people, we were faced in 2020 where that election, it happened. We all know what happened with that, right? So
Yes.
here we
Yes.
are. They're doing everything they can to
Everything.
stop him. Even now, you got House members proposing bills to remove his Secret Service if he's
Yeah.
convicted, right?
Yeah.
Because what do they want to do? They want to be
Yep.
able to kill him. They want to get
Yes.
rid of them. They
Yes.
want the judge to remove the gag order. They're already saying, they won't fine him anymore because he can pay the money. They're going to lock him up. Well, they can't lock him up because the Secret Service, then they'd have to secure a part of the jail. Turns into a thing.
Exactly.
But if they
Yes.
remove the Secret Service and he's guilty, they can put him there. And we already know what happens when you go in New York City and you're placed in jail, right?
Yeah.
We saw that with Epstein,
Epstein.
right?
Right.
They can get to you. They can get
Right.
to you. And with all that being said, pray none of that happens. Pray that we come together as a nation. We're able to get Trump in the White House. But just know the spiritual attack doesn't stop there, because
Right.
we know what happened when he was in the White House, this full-on attack with this pandemic. They are going to pull out all the stops because we know
Yes.
what he's going to do when he's going to be in there. So
Right.
the attack is going to escalate, is what's going to happen. So don't think that your sights are on a finish line in November, because that's almost the start of the race.
Right.
Because I truly
100%.
believe there's so much more in store. And that's another reason to where we got to circle the wagons. We got to bring God into the center. We got to stay focused on that. But that doesn't mean don't be involved politically. Don't stay tuned into these things, but don't let them worry you. And that's the key, because they want to
Right.
use worry and fear to control us like they did in
Yes.
2020. Almost everybody fell victim at some point in time to
Right.
that lie. At some point in time, we all did. If we look inside, there was for a little bit, a couple days, we all had a we didn't know, but we quickly
Right.
learned, and we said, nope, that's not for me. I'm not falling for that okey doke. And it won't be the same again, but it'll be escalated. We will be
Right.
escalated, so I just
That's
know
why.
that.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just want to say that, through this all, don't think that in November, that's the end. So we just got to
Right.
stay armed up. It says, you said about the armor of God, the shirt I'm wearing, Ephesians 6:13. The verse before that, Ephesians 6:12. though we struggle not against principalities and rulers, but it's principalities, powers, spiritual darkness in the earthly and heavenly places. That's the battle.
Right.
And it's spiritual. It's a spiritual battle.
I would like to end on that, my man. That's powerful stuff. I know we just hit the hour mark,
Oh,
but
that was a quick hour. Loved it, man. We had a good conversation. I hope everybody listened and enjoyed, for sure. And I appreciate you having me on to conversate for your listeners to hear. It was a blessing and honor to be on your show, brother.
bro, it's a blessing to have you and to seize what we can in this moment. There is great blessing and it's only begun. Whatever we could do on our humble little platform to assist riding this ship. So all glory to God. Yeah, it's just been such a fun ride. I mean, do you have any other burning desires? I didn't mean to kind of be abrupt.
No, you're good. I just want to bless your podcast, man, and everybody that's listening. If anybody's out there that's struggling with something that they've been battling with for a while, I would say don't give up. Dig in, surrender it to God, and it might be tough, no matter what you're going through. Trust me, I've been there. I've been through a lot, and I would just tell you that God will see you through it if you surrender to Him, and it's not going to be easy, but the weight that He takes is like no other. And I would just say surrender to Him and know that He's going to pull you through.
That's so true. Yeah, I could testify to that as well. And it's not all like the world would project it, like someone's dealing with depression or something, and it's just they're at their wits' end. The world kind of chalks it up as like mental and what's wrong with you, which keeps people kind of more so isolated and alone and not as open as like you need to be in that very tough moment. But just know, like, you're not alone, and we need to kind of rewire that programming and be better and assistant in those moments, because I don't mean to victimize ourselves here, but we've fallen prey to a lot of war tactics that if we could detoxify the bodies from the poisons, you got to stop eating that fast food, the chemicals, the pharmaceutical drugs, the preservatives. There's half of these things aren't even, I mean, it's not food, and it's leading to that state. So if we could detoxify, just take these small steps and detoxify our body, balance our hormones, balance our nutrition, and just recognize that that is not a normal state of being for anyone to be in. So in a way, it's not you. Like, hang in there. It's not you. There's steps to take to where your natural state will start breathing life back into you, and before you know it, you'll be reflecting back like, I cannot even believe, like, I couldn't even see a way out. I didn't even want a way out because I couldn't even, I was done. I was done. But on the other side of it, you're just like, there's so much to live for. There's so much to engage in, even amongst this war, whether you were plugged into it before or not. Like, I just have so much excitement in life to engage in war, even, so it's, how does that happen? Well, there's some basic things, but it's our God-given immune system, this amazing resilient body that is very under attack right now. Like, it can bounce back in our minds and everything, and that's where, like, He is to guide us on that. And that's been like my biggest emotional breakthroughs too, because as you give that over, I mean, that clarity, that peace, that gratitude, you can't even put it into words. It's just a gift given that changes everything.
Yeah. Well said, brother. That's exactly it. It's a gift like no other that can only come from one, but
Wow.
it takes that surrender. you know. And to add what you said, I would say if somebody's struggling with depression or any medicines that they're on and they feel like they can't get off of it, I would say daily get out there, get in that sun, vitamin D, take your shoes off, put your feet in the dirt. We're made from that, and connect to it, you know, because there's healing properties in that. That's something I used to do when I was sick too. I remember I would just go outside and let the sun hit on me and put the dirt under my feet and just, you know, pray, be in that moment, be still, meditate, because that's what we got to do. And the Holy Spirit will heal us. You know, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fast, but if you stay at it, it works.
Gerard, you're a blessing for me. I'm going to be just glowing all day. I'm sure I'll get some compliments on this shirt, but also my, just how I'm feeling. And I want to thank you for that. And I sure hope that same effect happened to all our listeners today. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting us and believing in what we're trying to achieve here. Help guide us, plug into the community, leave us comments, how we could refine our processes. But be sure to check this comment section. Support this man, his apparel company, his podcast. Let's go. Let's create this alternate economy. And we got this together. God bless. Till next time. Take care.